Hey guys, Poro back after a long hiatus, and I'm going to be giving you a full rundown of everything you need to know about Worlds 2023, including mini breakdowns of all the qualifying teams. We'll get the format out of the way first. Worlds 2023 will be hosted in South Korea from October 10th to November 19th. It will be available to watch on multiple platforms, including Twitch, YouTube, and the LoL Esports website. The event will technically feature 22 teams, but it's really 23 teams. 4 from LCK, 4 from LPL, 3 from LEC, 3 from LCS, 2 from PCS, 2 from VCS, and 1 team each from CBLOL, LJL, and LLA. The final team will be the winner of a series between the 4th seeded teams from LEC and LCS, and that series will also be played in Korea, so that's why I say 23 teams. While we're on the topic, that series is called the International Worlds Qualifying Series and will be a single elimination best of 5 to determine who gets that final slot on October 9th, 12 in the morning EST. Someone will arrive in Korea, play maybe 3 games in one day, and then go home. The next stage of the tournament is the play-in stage, which will feature 8 teams, those being both PCS and VCS teams, the LJL, CBLOL, and LLA teams, and finally the winner of the International Qualifying Series. Those teams will be drawn into 2 double elimination brackets of 4 teams each, and the series will be best of 3s. The winner of one bracket will face the second place team of the other bracket, and vice versa in a best of 5 series, and the 2 remaining teams will advance to the next stage. This stage is the Swiss stage and features 16 teams total, all 4 LCK and LPL teams, the top 3 seeded teams from LEC and LCS, and the 2 teams that qualified from play-ins. If you don't know what a Swiss format is, it's not as complicated as you might think. Games are drawn and everyone plays against their opponent. Winners move up and losers move down. Games are drawn again and the winners move up and the losers move down again. As you can see, teams always play a team with the same overall record as them. These matches are best of 1s at first. However, they become best of 3s if a team is on the cusp of getting knocked out or moving to the next round, which happens at 3 wins or 3 losses respectively. There will be 5 rounds of this total, and the end result will be that 8 teams move on with 3 wins and 8 teams get knocked out with 3 losses. Then we head to the final round of the tournament, the knockout stage. This is the same as always with a single best of 5 elimination bracket to determine who takes home the Summoners Cup. Now that the format of the tournament is done, we can move on to team breakdowns. We'll start off with LPL, who won the most recent international tournament through MSI 2023. The first seed from the LPL is JDG, the reigning MSI champions. They came off of MSI a little shaky, losing 2-0 to Weibo Gaming, but then dominated the rest of the league, defeating everyone except for an end-season ramping IG team. For the majority of people, JDG is likely the favorite heading into Worlds, as the LPL looks stronger than the LCK at MSI. The roster is also the exact same, and all 5 players made either first or second All-Pro team at the end of the season. JDG won every single match in LPL playoffs, beating LNG twice and BLG once, and the team shows no signs of having a weak player to target. The second seed from LPL is BLG, who were second at MSI. BLG arguably had a more dominant regular season than JDG, as they came out swinging and destroyed every single team except for JDG and ended the regular season first at 15-1. However, it seems like JDG is just BLG's kryptonite, as BLG are 0-7 in series against JDG this year so far. There's also an asterisk on BLG even being the second seed, as while they did have the second most championship points, they lost to LNG in the lower bracket finals match in LPL Summer Playoffs. BLG also had all 5 players make it onto an all-pro team, with Bin and On especially being players to watch. The third seed from LPL is LNG, who made a massive roster change heading into summer by bringing in Gala to the ADC position. It was definitely a good improvement, as the team went from 5th to 2nd in playoffs. However, that 5th place finish in spring is what landed them in 3rd seed position, even though they defeated BLG. LNG also has the best track record against JDG, taking them to 5 games in both playoffs matchups. The player to watch out for on this team is Scout, who has made a strong argument for best LPL mid in both spring and summer split. The 4th seed from LPL is Weibo Gaming, who also made one roster change by swapping out Karsa for Weiwei. I'm personally pretty happy with this, as it was criminal that Weiwei went teamless in spring. Even though many people are pretty united in the idea that Weibo Gaming is the worst team representing LPL, this team also has a super high skill ceiling with a lot of big names like The Shy and Xiaohu. Light is also my personal favorite ADC in LPL right now, and the entire team always enjoys coin flipping and going for big plays. Next we'll go into LCK, and the first seed is Gen.G, who won LCK in spring and placed 4th at MSI. Gen.G was fairly dominant for the majority of the split, being 2nd in regular season and then going 9-2 in playoffs to clinch the title. The roster remains the exact same as MSI, with people feeling that Doran and Pays have leveled up since then. However, the fact that LCK went 3rd and 4th at MSI is still a pretty big stain that people definitely haven't forgotten. As always though, the big name to watch is Chovy in the mid lane, who's looking to finally make the deep run at Worlds that everyone expects him to. The second seed from LCK is T1, who placed 3rd at MSI and had a very interesting summer split. T1 went from 6-2 to 7-9 after Faker was out with an injury and Poby had to sub in, and their macro looked completely off to many people for the entire duration of it. This has led the community to label T1's 4 other players as frauds, and the matters weren't necessarily fixed at all when Faker came back and T1 started winning again. T1 without Faker is a completely different team, but they'll have him for Worlds, so we'll see how strong they can look. The third seed from LCK is KT, who dominated all of regular season with an undefeated second round robin before losing the Telecom Wars twice in 5 games to get knocked into 3rd in playoffs. This team, while heavily criticized for it, had all 5 players in first team All-Pro, and their super carry top laner Keen is the one to watch as he finally tries to show internationally why most people think he's been in the conversation for best Korean top for the better part of a decade. They were my personal pick to win Worlds heading into playoffs, but I'm definitely not so sure anymore. The 4th seed from LCK is D plus Kia, who are coming in with a super high potential roster that hasn't quite been delivering as much as people want. On paper, the roster with Canyon, Showmaker, and Deft on it seems insane, but they finished smack in the middle in both spring and summer, and DK also spent some time switching around their supports, so you might see Bible play a few games. We know these players can step it up big at internationals though, so we'll have to see how it goes. Next is LEC, and the 1 seed is G2, who convincingly beat out their opposition in both regular season and playoffs. In fact, G2 has dominated much of the entirety of the year, winning 3 out of the 4 LEC splits. G2 also had an optimistic MSI performance, taking games off of both BLG and Gen G. While the entire roster looks strong, the key players to look out for come Worlds are the young rookie superstar jungler Yike and LEC MVP support Mickey X. This team also brings interesting draft plans that can definitely shake up the meta and should be a fun team to watch even if they flop. The second seed from LEC is Fnatic, who have had one of the best recoveries of a season ever. Fnatic finished 9th in winter and 8th in spring, but then swapped to Trimby for support and finished 3rd in summer to qualify them for the season finals where they got all the way to their showdown with G2. This roster, especially as of late, has been heavily experimenting with unique picks like Karthus and Taliyah Jungle. I expect Oscarinin to play at Worlds, but don't be surprised if they also take Wonder, who had a strong playoff showing when Oscarinin was injured. The other key players to watch are Razork, who has finally returned to his form on Misfits, and Humanoid, who can be the best Western mid laner on any given day if the coin lands on heads. The third seed from LEC is Mad Lions, who have had a consistently strong season in terms of placements. The team sometimes flops in the regular season, but showed up in playoffs, especially in spring where they won it all to represent MSI as the 1 seed. Mad have been clowned on for said MSI performance after their 16-minute loss to T1, but this also came after a game 1 against T1 where Mad looked very strong and was going toe-to-toe with them. People tend to underestimate Mad Lions due to a history of poor international performances, but the team is still a decent threat on paper with a bunch of long-standing strong Western players paired with a rookie top laner who made a strong case for Rookie of the Year behind Yike. The 4th seed from LEC is BDS, who had sort of a miracle run of a season. They were predicted by many to be a bottom-tier LEC team, but came out firing in spring to place 2nd, which qualified them for regional finals. People might say this team is more than the sum of its parts, but I think the team always had a large degree of potential on it from the get-go with their high volatility top laner, standout rookie jungler, and solo queue superstar support. Nuke has also stepped it up from last season to be a legitimate mid laner, and Crownshot has had the best split of his yet, making a name for himself as a top Western ADC. If BDS defeats Golden Guardians, watch out for them to take some names and make some upsets. Next we have the LCS, and the first seed is surprisingly NRG, who were seeded 5th coming into LCS playoffs. I must admit, I was super low on this team throughout the whole season and didn't have faith in the FBI Ignar bot duo, but they clutched it out and looked strong for most of summer. The signs of this team's potential were always there too, as people noted that NRG had a tendency to beat all of the top teams and lose to all of the bottom teams in regular season. If there's one player from this roster that I wanted to take note of, it would be Dokla in the top lane. He was consistently at the top of Champions Queue back when it wasn't dead, and it translated into strong performances on stage even back on CLG. The second seed from LCS is Cloud9, and these guys were supposed to be the heavy favorites to win it all. They have the same roster as the one from MSI, although there are some question marks surrounding whether MNS will play or not after his goofy solo queue remarks. Assuming he does, this team still has strong potential ceiling due to Blabber and Berserker being carry threats, but people say C9 has been playing too slow and too passively in playoffs. We've seen the highs of these players before, such as Fudge at 2021 MSI or Berserker and Blabber in 2022, but we won't know which C9 will show up to Worlds until it happens. The third seed from LCS is Team Liquid, who experimented with a full Korean roster with Korean staff in spring, leading to a massive disappointment. Summer was shaping up to be more of the same, but that's when APA finally got his shot on the LCS stage by replacing Harry, and the team almost instantly looked better. Speaking of, the strong point for TL to look at heading into Worlds are the solo laners, with Summit being able to match the best tops in the world in laning phase, and APA getting his long overdue appearance to show how good he is. They also have 2 reigning world champions on their roster, guess that's worth mentioning. The 4th seed from LCS is Golden Guardians, who were originally expected to finish 1st or 2nd after their strong MSI and summer regular season performance. The team is still looking strong, with Licorice having not taken his foot off the gas after his surprising MSI glow-up. River and Gory are also still threats to any mid-jungle, and Huhi is definitely more in his comfort zone with engaged supports coming back into the meta. 6A has also continued to look better than what I would have thought, so you have a roster of 5 solid players who took a game off of BLG. BDS definitely should not underestimate them in the last chance qualifier. Next up is the PCS, who are sending 2 familiar teams to Worlds. The first seed is PSG Talon, who did pretty much the exact move that I would have wanted them to do. My main critique of them heading into MSI was that Ubal was the weak link, and after Ubal did in fact prove to be the weak link at Internationals, PSG immediately subbed him out for the PCS veteran GOAT Maple. I honestly could not have picked a better roster change for them with the options they had, and they cruised to Summer Finals. They did have a 5-game scare in finals against CFO, but a team with Jonjia and Maple are not going to lose a minor region finals match. The second seed from PCS is CTBC Flying Oyster, who have 3 returning members from their 2022 Worlds roster, swapping out Mission and Koala for Jimian and Xiaoxi. I'll be honest, I never thought CFO would be here, and I would have picked Deep Cross Gaming or Frankie Sports to have gotten second instead, but CFO nonetheless completed the lower bracket run to be here. The big player to watch out for on this team is Rest, who has a case as best PCS top laner right now, with only Solo Kill really having an argument over him. Next is VCS, whose first seed is GAM Esports. Expectations of this team have to be lower this time after they were knocked out of MSI by Rainbow 7, although they did identify their weak point by replacing Style and Xin with Slater and Pallet in the bot lane. It should be an upgrade, but there are still question marks surrounding this team and how strong the region is as a whole. Saigon Buffalo looked impressive at Worlds 2022, but there hasn't been any signs of life from the VCS since then. Their main player to watch out for is still Levi, who led the team during their strong performances at 2017 MSI and Worlds, and is still considered the best Vietnamese jungler. The second seed from VCS is Team Wales, who are filled with players who have been domestically strong for the past few years. BA and Beanjay have international experience, and the other 3 players have all seen domestic success in playoffs. Beanjay is the big name to look out for though, as he's been a hot commodity ever since his showing at Worlds 2022, where he displayed unique picks and the ability to keep up with strong major region junglers. If Team Wales wants a shot at making it out of play-ins, it'll have to come from him. Finally, we have the last 3 regions, who are all sending a team that has been to internationals before. The CBLOL is sending Loud again as they make their 3rd international appearance in a row. It wasn't as easy of a march there this time, but the roster is still the same as MSI, and they defeated their biggest competition in Red Cannons once and Pain Gaming twice. This also means Beelzy has yet to lose playoffs with Loud so far, a cool call out for coach. For those unfamiliar, Loud is a team built around their CBLOL veteran players Robo, Tinones, and Seos, paired with 2 Korean imports in Croc and Route. They're one of my favorite teams to watch due to how aggressively they play early game and how creative they are when behind. Definitely a team to watch for upsetting some bigger teams in play-ins. LJL sees the 10 millionth participation of DFM, and this time with an interesting spin on their usual roster. Most people remember their new top laner Tol2 at MSI, who performed extremely under expectations and came under a lot of heat. Well, DFM apparently agreed because they took their veteran ADC, who has been with the team since 2013, and moved him to top lane, and they brought in DFM Academy ADC Milan to take his spot. This isn't completely out of left field though, as Yutapon has dabbled in top lane in prior years for the team before 2017. Keep an eye out for Arya, their Korean import mid laner who had a very strong Worlds 2021 performance and has been the best mid in Japan for a while now. LLA is sending their 2023 MSI representative Rainbow 7. R7 is the winningest team in LLA history, and they also recently had a decent showing at Worlds 2020. The roster is the exact same as the one at MSI, and they defied expectations by knocking GAM out of the tournament. Expect this team to come in firing with all kinds of carries and early game action, especially from their veteran jungler Adi. That's going to do it for teams, and hopefully that was enough to get you caught up in what's been going on around the world before Worlds 2023 starts. I'm excited to see how the Swiss format ends up playing out, as I think the format is pretty interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you with whatever video I put out next. I stream on Twitch sometimes and also have a Discord server, and I also have a Ko-fi page for tips. Links to all of those will be in the description. Bye!